On today's show, we'll recommend an EV for a family looking to add a second car to their driveway, a viewer's sister who totaled her Toyota Camry, and another viewer's friend who is moving to Massachusetts from Canada. Welcome to Battery Bargains, a weekly series from the Batteries Included podcast where we make EV recommendations to order. This is episode number 50. I'm Dominic Ioni, and I am joined today by Martin Lee from the EV News Daily Podcast. If you're looking for your own bespoke Battery Bargains recommendation, send us a 1-minute video or a short email describing your use case and budget, and we'll see about featuring your case on an upcoming episode. All right. So, Martin, we haven't spoken about this at all, but I thought we should maybe do a deal of the week kind of thing. Like, I don't know, if I come across a special deal, I think it's strong, maybe just kind of mention at the top of the show. And I don't really have a specific deal this week, but our good friend Kyle from Out of Spec put out a video on these reviews channel this past week, showcasing some lease deals that they're getting at Fort Collins Kia. So that's up there on the on his Out of Spec reviews channel. It's titled "EV Leases Could Get Significantly More Expensive Next Year. It's time to go for these crazy deals." And there is some crazy deals. But actually, we'll get into them because we're going to kick this off with our first case for today. And it's in he's in the Denver area. So he can maybe take advantage of some of these lease situations there in Colorado because they've got great incentives. Let's get into the email. Also, good morning, Martin. How you doing?
Good.
All right. And hello, y'all out there. Okay, so our first email comes to us from Brian, who writes, "Hello, we are a family in Denver, Colorado, with a 10-year-old Subaru Impreza, well-maintained, but with 100,000 miles on it, who feel now would be a good time to add a second car. About a third of our mileage is around town. Another third is 200-mile-plus trips to the mountains with elevation changes, colder temperatures, dirt roads, etc. And the other third is 1,000-mile-plus road trips with lots of stuff. They carry a cargo box on the roof of their Subaru. Here are some of the things we'd like to see in a vehicle and other considerations. We have a kid, so safety is top priority. Effective and reliable transportation. Total cost of ownership and value for money over the life of the vehicle. Improvements we'd like over our Impreza include less cabin noise, better acceleration, more comfortable seats, and better ground clearance. Other general features we would like: heated seats and remote start for cold days, all-wheel drive, kid-friendly, decent cargo capacity. EV features we would like: sufficient range for mountain trips, around 200 miles round trip to allow for home charging nearly all the time. Decent charge times, efficiency, technology that will not be rendered immediately obsolete. A sunroof is one feature we want to avoid given the hail in our region. Thanks in advance. I appreciate it. Brian. All right. So Brian's letter originally was a lot longer than this. So apologies, Brian. We had to cut out quite a bit to fit it onto the page here and to share with our viewers. But so let's start like this. If you don't mind if I start off, Martin, with this one.
Dive in.
All right. So my advice is to you is to start the buying process. Meow. So Colorado has a $5,000 incentive, but it drops to $3,500 in January 1st. So if you want the best deal, it will probably be best to buy in the next few weeks. So luckily for you, this also coincides with the usual end of the year scramble to move cars off the lots to pad the 2024 numbers. So there should be lots of good deals out there. And seeing as this is our first EV, I thought it would make sense, I think, to take care of the crazy lease deals in Colorado instead of buying through finance. These are mostly 2-year leases, so it will give them a great intro into EVs. And then in 2 years' time, there's going to be a lot of EVs coming off the lease. So I think the used market is still going to be pretty strong around then, and they'll have a lot better sense of what they want from an EV at that time too, and also just more choices on the market, right? More models coming out all the time. So Brian had mentioned wanting to understand the steps as well involved in getting the state and federal incentives. So basically, you buy or lease through a dealer, and they take care of all that for you. You can ask them just to make sure that that's all kind of happening and it's all included in your price. But that the dealers kind of take care of that for you. You don't need to have a tax. I mean, it's a tax credit, but it's a refundable tax credit now, so you don't have to owe taxes to be able to take advantage of. There's just an income cap, which is like $300,000 for a married couple or $150,000 for individuals. So you might need to bring a copy of your income tax filings. I'm not sure, or maybe you just sign a document, stating that was your income was this amount, and just to confirm that with a signature. Anyway, as for cars, I would check some of the best deals out in your area. Stevenson Chevrolet says on its website that they are leasing 2025 Chevrolet Equinox EVs for $199 a month with $898 down, which is a pretty good price. I think that comes out to like $265 a month, basically, over the 2 years. Mile High Honda in the Denver area is advertising a Honda Prologue Elite all-wheel drive for $174 a month with $3,171 down. Arapahoe Hyundai, now this is where it gets interesting, is offering a Ioniq 5 limited all-wheel drive for $169, starting at $169 a month with zero down. So, I mean, that's super attractive and probably the vehicle I would recommend for you, the Ioniq 5. You probably can't get that 169 price because that number depends on a lot of smaller potential incentives like military members or I think there's sometimes university student discounts or things. But you should be able to get pretty close to, I think on their site they mentioned as $229 as well. So that's probably going to be where you're coming at. It may be, but you might be able to get a little bit lower than that. And that deal also allows for 12,000 miles a year. So that is a great deal, I gotta say. And their dealer mates, Arapahoe Kia, is also offering a zero down lease for $219 a month on the EV6, which is basically the Kia version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It's very different looking cars, but the platform that they're sitting on is the same battery packs and motors, just slightly different interiors and software. So I would check both of those vehicles out, or all of those vehicles out, really, and just go for test drives, see what vehicle feels more comfortable for you and is available without a glass roof. Also, the EV6 and Ioniq 5 have 6.1-inch road clearances. That's about an inch more than that Subaru Impreza. But the Prologue has a 7.9-inch ground clearance. So I don't know what roads you're planning on traveling down, but the Prologue's been pretty popular amongst people, I think. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that, Martin. So
all good thoughts. I mean, there's not much. You're adding a second car, Brian, so you haven't got to wait to sell your Subaru. So that makes things a little bit easier. This, Brian, seems to me like, you've got to, and Dom said he cut your letter down a lot, and it's a really long letter already. Brian, I think you're like me. I think you are analyzing the heck out of this, and you want to make the best decision. It's often the second biggest purchase we make behind our house if we're homeowners, and so it's a huge outlay, and I totally get that. Everything Dom said, I wholeheartedly endorse and agree with. Can't add too much in terms of the vehicle choice. They're amazing prices. I'm going to lean into the psychology of car buying, Brian. I really want you to replay what Dom had to say, go test drive some cars. In the next few days, we're at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. Everyone is trying to hit targets. Now is a great time to get a car. So whether you go for a Tesla, Tesla are desperate to sell you a car. They don't want to do fewer cars in 24 than they did in 2023. It'll be the first time in Tesla's history that they've been a declining business, if that's true. They're all about the growth story. They've got to keep it going. They are dagging to sell you a car. Brian, please go and test drive some cars before the weekend. And then, you don't shut down like we shut down. Because come next week, over here in Europe, I mean, I'm in the UK, which is sort of different to France and Italy and what have you. We've still got a pretty strong holiday culture. Like, come next week, I'll see you on the 6th of January. You know what I mean? I know the US, before my US friends have been like, hey, when I used to work in a proper job, can you do a Zoom call on Boxing Day? And I'm like, no, I can do a Zoom call in January. Now, look, I know you guys work more than we do, and so maybe it's not an issue, but time is getting tight. Everything changes 1st of Jan, then 20th of Jan. Please, Brian, think about doing this super, super quick. The choice of vehicles are great, all the ones that Dom suggested. I'm gonna push you on making a decision, making a call, because trust us, you will kick yourself. The deals will not get better if you wait until end of January or February. Now is the time.
Right, and their incentive is going to lose $1,500, so that's going to play into that as well. So like what the prices are in January, they're going to be $1,500 more, basically.
Please, yeah. And Brian, I tend you're like me. Like, you've written us a very comprehensive thing. You've clearly thought it all through. I bet you've researched and researched, but you're not going to get buyer's remorse, because that's what I always think. I think I'll just do a bit more research in case I make the wrong decision. You won't, Brian. You've done it. You've done all the great thinking. Now please do it. If you don't want to, keep the Subaru, great car. But if you do want to add that second car, man, you've got like 2 weeks.
You can do it. It's going to be fun.
Do it, Brian. Like, this is, the psychology of car buying to me is as interesting as actually going to buy the car, because some people can just wake up in the morning and think, I fancy a change, and go sign a new lease. Like, I can't do that. Like,
I cannot do that.
Like, and I married the same woman. Like, she will spend weeks looking at a pair of shoes, and some people can just come home with like bags of stuff, and like, that's why I married her, because she's not that kind of person. But but then you add us together and nothing gets done in our household. So please, like, stop. You've done all the research. Do the next. If you want to, do the next step. Now's the time.
Awesome. All right. So our next email comes to us from Krita. I guess I'm not sure if that. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. I've never seen this name before, but it's a nice name. Hello, longtime viewer. Hoping you can help us out. My sister was in a car accident and totaled her Toyota Camry. Luckily, she is okay. She lives in the LA area and needs a new vehicle immediately for her 30-mile commute. Her apartment manager told her that the apartment does not have enough power to charge an EV. She has DC fast chargers at her grocery store and a few level 2 chargers near her apartment and work, but she is concerned about regular charging. Her income qualifies her for a large amount of tax credits, $4,000 or $7,500 federal, $10,000 plus state, and $4,000 utility credits. If she gets an EV or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, she is looking to get something as cheap as possible that will be long-lasting. Ideally, she would like automatic emergency braking, a backup camera, and automated cruise control. She went out and test drove a Chevrolet Bolt EV, a Kia Niro EV, and Hyundai Kona Electric at my suggestion, and loved the Kona Niro, but not the Bolt. I also recommended the Chevy Volt, BMW i3, or Prius Prime if she decides she's not comfortable getting a regular charge and wants something that can still run on gas but qualifies for the tax credit. Other suggestions she should be considering in the EV space. Are there any other suggestions? Sorry. She should be considering in the EV space. Anything in the FEV space we are sleeping on. Any particular deals you see out there they should check out. Ideally, after credits are applied, she would like to spend less than $5,000 if possible. We are going to go look and buy a car in the next week or so. Appreciate your help and suggestions. Krita. I don't know, Martin. What do you think?
You're stacking so federal tax credit is also lease loophole, but you say you want to spend $5,000, so I think you want to spend some money, don't you? By the way, you don't want to do a monthly agreement by the look of it. So 10K state, 4K utility. spending less than 5K if possible. So out of pocket, as it were. So it sounds like you want to buy a vehicle. So if you weren't looking to buy a vehicle, as we've mentioned already plenty of times in recent weeks, if you are looking to spend as little as possible, then the Honda Prologue is definitely worth looking at. You've not looked at that vehicle yet. It's got great bones from GM, but they have Honda'd it, and I think improved it as well. And the Prologue gets rave reviews. And honestly, the monthly price on the Prologue is just so crazy cheap. But if you are looking to buy, you spend less than 5,000, then I think, as well as the cars that you have looked at, then you haven't mentioned Tesla, and you should where you are in LA, because the LA area, every second car is going to be a white Tesla. It is, isn't it? And so you haven't mentioned that, but maybe you should look at that. And anything in the plug-in hybrid space that you're sleeping on, not really. There's nothing that is an incredible plug-in hybrid that we are strongly recommending. There's not particularly any reason for that. There's just no real standouts that if you can go full EV with a big battery, and you've driven the good ones. So the Nero and the Kona, both at the end of their lives now. So I don't know where the Nero will sit when the Kia EV3 is around. In Germany, it doesn't. So in Germany, when the EV3 came out, the Nero came off sale. In terms of the Kona, again, just had a refresh. I think it'll be around for a little while longer. But you haven't got that home charging. So those vehicles are going to give you the most amount of miles for your money. Now, I don't know when the Kia EV3 arrives with you, if ever, maybe. But that, again,
2026.
Okay, so ignore that one for now because you need the vehicle now. So yeah, the best options, because that's going to be, base spec big battery, 81.4 kilowatt hour battery, is going to be silly miles for silly money in terms of low money. But for now, you've driven the right things. I think you're in the right area. I definitely recommend the Kona and the Nero.
Yeah. Yeah, those are like the really good solid choices for like the lower end of the the budget for new EVs. But I was like stumbled over this this email because of the low price. I mean, $5,000 kind of budget, even after the incentives, it makes it really kind of hard to. Cause I was looking, and most of the $5,000 cars or less. Actually, I used $6,000, because there was going to be some incentives on used vehicles. But most of those cars in that area are like basically less than 100 miles of range, and so Nissan Leafs, you could buy a Nissan Leaf for 5,000 or less. I found one with a 2013 with 41,000 miles for $5,850. But the problem with getting Nissan Leaf is it's charging, right? If you can't charge at home, but and I think you should, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you have to charge it, away from home, its DC charging system is CHAdeMO, and its AC charging is like normal J1772, like every other car. So you can charge it like depending on what the year of the Leaf, 3.3 or 6.6 kilowatt rate, which is a bit slow, so you need to leave it there for some hours, or find a CHAdeMO charger, which is kind of rare now and getting more rare. So it's a weird choice. But if you could convince your apartment management that you could plug this into like a 110 or 120 volt outlet, like a normal household outlet, and you can get your 30 miles of range that you need for your commute every night, no problem, overnight, over that slow level, we call it level 1 charging, basically. That would be the way to go. But if not, if your budget is actually higher than 5,000, because that's super restrictive, like Martin was saying, check into these leases, Prologue, Nero, and Kia Niro and Hyundai. No, I got them backwards. It's what is it? The Kona, right? Hyundai Kona electric.
Kona, yeah.
Right. Kia Niro EV. Yeah. Those are really the two. Until the Chevy Bolt comes back, those are the two bargains in the EV world right now, as far as like new vehicles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so
they're putting in a ton of So you don't get the federal tax credit on those, but they are still putting in their version. So their deposit contribution, their version of 7.5 grand on to get those vehicles off dealer lots.
Right. And like you were saying, this is the end of the year. There's going to be lots of deals out there. I mean, hopefully your budget is higher than 5,000, because that's really puts you in a kind of difficult position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now I think with a big battery, you can do this without charging at home. 64 kilowatt hours in summer months. My Kona, I had a Gen 2 Kona. So first facelift, not the one that is the new one at the moment, would regularly read more than 300 miles, sometimes 320, 325, and that's not a million miles away, depending if you're driving it. You're driving it commuting in LA traffic, so you can walk quicker, and you do 30 miles a commute. So I really think you can just DC fast charge this at the weekends, because it charges slowly, peaking at 80 kilowatts plus or minus a bit. Then you probably can put it on a DC fast charger for 40 minutes or 45 minutes and not massively pee off all of the people who are queuing up for it. But if you want to stay with the vehicle, that's always a good idea on DC fast chargers. And and level to it. Go and enjoy some leisure time and spend a couple of hours somewhere and do a little top up here and there. But you think she should pitch for home charging in their apartment block? Do you?
Oh yeah, 30 miles. They can get that, or whatever EV they choose, unless it's a Hummer, which is a lot more inefficient. But most pretty efficient EVs will charge 30 miles worth of range overnight on a regular 120 outlet. Really, so if that's all you have, just go with that. Really.
So her apartment manager told her that the apartment does not have enough power to charge an EV. Well.
Yeah. It's it's like a bright light bulb at those levels, though, right? It's like a kilowatt or 2 kilowatts, maybe. So 1,000 or 2,000 watts.
I do dial mine back, by the way. So I tend to drip feed my car. So I'll often just charge it at like 3 kilowatts sometimes, rather than 7, just because I just don't need to stress the house. And if I'm going to plug it in at 7 p.m. and I know that we're not going to take the kiddo till school till 8 o'clock the next morning, just stick it on at 3 kilowatts. Like it's fine, especially if you don't need to charge really quickly. I'm just not going to stress my house electrics and double it and add a bit more heat and all that kind of stuff into it. So you can do it, and unless your apartment block is then your building manager is then gonna get upset with you and try and block you in some way. So maybe you should try and diplomatically have that conversation of, you can't ask me not to make a coffee in the morning, but I'm effectively doing the same thing. So
your 1,500 watt hair dryer, that's basically it.
It's a lot less than air conditioning. So have that conversation, maybe go armed with some facts and figures and things like, hey, I can limit, you can lock down the speed. So it's not as if we're going to put an EVSE in maybe the communal garage, and I'm going to secretly turn it up. So, we can lock it down. I can have the installer just dial that thing down, and, it'll be on my bill. And you absolutely can work these things out, particularly in the part of the world where you are, where EV adoption is so prevalent. In some parts of the world, you are then educating your building manager from scratch. But, where you are in the LA area, there's so many EVs around that this isn't going to be new news. You are not going to be the first person in the building that says, "Can I have a charger?" So, give that a go. Come back to us if you need some facts and figures to go armed with. We'd love to help you out.
All right. So our final email comes to us from Matthew, who says, "Hi, Dom and Martin et al. I've been listening to your podcast since the Inside EV days, and
sorry, that. Someone's got
right, and have followed EVs for a long time. I'm also studying lithium and sodium-ion batteries in the lab of Jeff Dawn at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. A friend of mine who recently graduated will be moving to Massachusetts in January from Canada and is looking to get a 3-year lease for an EV. I'm not sure what their exact budget is, but given that this is the first time they'll be living in the US and on their first full time job out of graduate school, their credit score may be a challenge. I have a couple questions regarding this. One, is a lease the best way to go here, or would a used EV be a better option, even if they're only planning to have it for 3 years? Two, if the lease is your recommendation, what are some deals that may be available to them in January? For some added context, they have not previously owned a vehicle, but one of their family members has a Polestar 2 that they enjoy. They are also aware that soon after January 20th, the US EV tax incentive may disappear, so that would be looking to sort. So we'll be looking to sort that out, this out ASAP in January. Thank you, Matthew. So first of all, Matthew, I think you should get in touch and maybe come on the show and tell us about sodium-ion batteries. So, considering this your invitation to get in touch for that, because I'm kind of curious about that, and that's a great school that you're going to. So, let's see. So a lot of this depends on the budget, and things. So I don't know exactly what that is, but we'll assume it's modest. Also, if they want to get a lease, you're going to need a credit score. They won't have one. That doesn't transfer from Canada to the US. So when you move from Canada to the US, you effectively have zero credit score. I was in a situation at one point, and I had to take out I took out like a loan from a bank that paid itself back. So basically, I borrowed $1,000 or something, $1,200. I forget what it was, and then immediately put that money back into the bank and scheduled out 2 or 3 years of payments with it. And I had to pay like a little extra, like $60 of interest to make the whole deal happen. And at the end of it, I had a credit score. Yeah. So it's harder to get a lease without a credit score, but it's not impossible. So the terms might not be as good. They might ask for more of a down payment or higher monthly payments, but it should be possible. Is it better than buying outright? I'm not sure. It all depends. If you can get the financing without and the amount of the financing. So they're gonna have to talk to some banks, basically, or also a dealership, right? Because I guess the dealer would tell them, whether or not they can do something with that kind of a credit situation. But if they have a good job, and a decent income, then hopefully there's a workaround there. So looking in the Massachusetts area, looking at the Polestar 2, the certified used examples from Polestar are over $25,000, so they can't take advantage of the federal used EV incentive if they go Polestar 2. But there was a bunch of cars on the Polestar site, I think around $28,000, 28 to 30, with about 40 to 45,000 miles on them. So I'm not sure if it's a great car. Martin here has one. But I'm not sure that's a great price mileage sort of situation equation. People were mentioning e-trons here earlier in the chat, and those are actually pretty good to get something like a low mileage e-tron. It's also still above the $25,000 mark as well. If you go below 30,000 miles, I think. Because for the used EV tax credit, you want to get 25,000 or below, and you can get $4,000 off, because the 25,000 is the cutoff. So I don't know. I think a Tesla Model 3 would be a better value if that brand is okay for this person. Looking around, I found a 2020 Tesla Model 3 long range, 31,000 miles, $24,982. So from the dealer, that would be $21,000 after the rebate. And great car, great range, everything you need there at a great price. But looking, if they want to try for leases, there's some decent leases in the Boston area. I assume it's in the Boston area. Yeah. So I think there's a dealership called Quirk Kia that has a lease deal on the 2025 Niro EV, $140 a month with $3,000 down, which works out to $265 a month. Herb Chambers Honda has the Honda Prologue EX all-wheel drive at $268 a month with zero down. So that's pretty. That's a lot of car for that kind of money. And then Quirk Chevrolet, excuse me, has a great deal on its site right now for the Chevy Equinox EV. Zero down, $165 a month for 36 months, $10,000 a year. It's a fantastic deal. This is the one I would go for. It's just the cheapest price. Yes, by far it's the cheapest price. It's 3 years, which is what they're looking for. 10,000 miles a year, which is a fantastic deal. I would go there. What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, I don't know how the leasing exactly works in your country and the ins and outs of it. And I know that when Tom got his Equinox recently, because the dealer was doing a killer deal on the lease, it was something like $200 a month all in. I forget what Tom's final number was. Tom said, right, I wrote them a check for $5,000 and said, see you in 2 years when I bring it back. Now, that might be a tough ask for someone who's just graduated and starting their first job, but I don't see why that would need to then have a big credit score, because if that's the way that you can do things, or maybe it's the way Tom does stuff. Maybe Tom said, hey, I've got a special deal for you. And who says no to Tom? Nobody, right? And so that might be just what Tom did. But, if there was an option of having one of these killer low lease deals, and we've seen them in the hundreds, 150s, depending on where and when and the right car and all that kind of stuff. So don't get too carried away on the headlines. You see, the $7 a month car, but you got to add a bunch of stuff to that. You can get some killer lease deals, and whether you can just write a check and say, see you in 2 years, see you in 3 years, and I don't get a loan, borrow some money off a family, would that need a credit score? I don't know. I don't even know if I have a credit score. I've got a mortgage, so I must have a credit score. But apart from that, I haven't got credit cards or anything like that. So I'm swimming in very strange waters with all this. But if you don't have the option of leasing, which would be a real shame, because that leasing loophole allows you to get into a new car for a really decent monthly figure. I'd agree with what Dom said. So look at those kind of vehicles that, if you are buying them used, have lost a ton of value, but we don't think will carry on losing a ton of value, because there's always a base price just for every car. And so as Dom said, something like a Tesla Model 3, those vehicles which on a 2020 plate or a 21 plate or model year, as you would say, then those vehicles have been through that first depreciation cycle. You will lose money. I've made money on the last two EVs that I sold. These were strange times post-COVID we were living through. You will lose money, but I don't think you'll lose as much money as if you'd owned an EV over the last 18 months to 2 years. And so have a look at that. Those are the kind of cars that, as long as you don't mind driving an EV that everyone else is driving, which I don't think, it doesn't sound like he's too precious and would care, and he hasn't got a big wish list and things like that, then that's going to be the most affordable way to go. The parts are going to be plentiful, people can repair them, and at the end of that 3 years, I think you'll still sell a Model 3 for pretty decent money, because the vehicles are always being updated and always feel kind of new, even if they haven't maybe got the latest cameras or hardware version. They still do more than most, and they still get updated with over-the-air updates. It will still feel like a fresh car in 3 years. So I'd recommend that.
So that if that strategy of bringing like the whole check for the thing, like, so if they went for that $165 over 36 months, zero down, that's $5,940. They'd have to cough up and present the check, and maybe that's a good way of doing the deal. I'm not really sure.
I know it's a lot of money. So if you're a new graduate, I'm not minimizing that, but if you can maybe go get a loan or something,
family loan, even
some way to get around that lack of credit score coming from Canada, then I think you'll be these are good lease deals at the moment. Mm-hmm. Try and find a way.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to Brian. Do it now. Like you said, let's do it in January. Yeah, but say to your friend, there's no material difference between the last 2 weeks of December, the first 2 weeks of January. And then after January 20th, everything's up in the air. Nobody knows. Everyone thinks they know.
Sure.
Everyone's got an opinion, but no one knows how quickly those incentives are going to go.
Right.
Can't go with the stroke of a pen, we don't think, but it could be quick or it could take 6 months and just get tied up. So we don't know.
Right. All right. So I think that's all our cases for the day. So that brings us to the end of our show. If you're looking for your own bespoke EV recommendation, drop us a line at batterybargains@batteriesincludedpodcast.com. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget, if you didn't like the show, please give us a thumbs up. Click that bell icon, tap that button for notifications.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah. Right. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll hope to see you again very soon. And ciao.